Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Long Box. I'm here with Marcus, and we're doing it's clobbering time. I'm gonna beat the crap out of Marcus.
Yep.
Marcus is gonna beat the crap out of me. Who do you think is gonna win? Marcus pretty tough.
I got rid of it. The other shows put it in X, so I don't even go on YouTube to get on it. It's not
Oh,
even a thought. They drop it in their DM group or whatever.
oh, oh,
So sorry about that little echo.
oh, oh. I'm just goofing around. I'm still wearing my Superman pajamas with the cape. It's so freaking comfortable, and I also have to say that I got an order of all Canadian garbage that me and my wife love since she's Canadian before the tariffs kicked in. So we're stocked for the time being. I got a huge box today. I was like trying to rush home. I'm like,
the tariffs kicked in. They had such high tariffs on all our stuff.
I know.
Nobody even knew. And then the list came out. You're like, oh my God, just forget Canada. I'm sorry. In deference to your wife, of course.
No, she's a little annoyed at the politics too. The guy gives up being the prime minister, but then
he's still the prime minister, right?
Yeah, I was talking to RJ since he lives in Canada, and he was telling me that you could be prime minister forever. It's just that when Parliament's in session, they call an election. So he's just
they're not in session yet. Then.
Right, and he's not calling Parliament in session. So I don't know if Canada has to have a Parliament every year or something. So
see what happens when you get Fidel Jr.
Yeah, you cry.
He does look exactly like Fidel Castro, though.
Yeah. So who would win, Fidel Castro or Justin Trudeau?
Well, Fidel Castro, obviously, he wouldn't cry.
Yeah, he would.
He was a tough guy.
There's no crying.
He'd send what's his face after him. He wouldn't even do it. You know what I'm talking about?
Che Guevara.
Che Guevara.
Yeah. I love some stuff. I love when I was in college and I saw kids with Che Guevara shirts. I was just like, do you know that you would be his target? You know.
Well, they complain. What about the pro Hamas people? And they're the first people to be thrown off the building.
Yeah,
lesbians for Hamas. Come on.
I just saw a poll today that a lot of LGBTQ people want to leave to Europe. It's like, good luck.
It's not any better. What are you crazy? Did you see the list that in the UK, like every big city or big town's mayor is Muslim?
Yeah.
So it's over.
So I'm of the opinion. I love a good conspiracy theory. I don't even know if this is a conspiracy theory, but I think Prince or King Charles converted to Islam.
I don't know if that's true, but it may be.
I mean,
I haven't seen that conspiracy theory yet.
He's supposed to be the head of the Church of England, and he hasn't been doing anything for Lent. You know, he hasn't been talking about Easter, but he's been like serving and doing stuff for Ramadan. You know.
I know. Well, that's how they are. They're bad.
I don't know. I don't know. So we got first off, my comic is still available. I had a couple of people reaching out in the past couple of days about is everything all right? When's your campaign launch? Well, moves are being made. This website is being built. Things like that are happening. The last step is I would like to have a trailer made. So I reached out to Kyle Prometheus. I'm waiting for one last page to get colored. So I'll have 5 pages of the Mary Sue story and 5 pages of the story.
Oh, that's good.
And then I'm going to, Kyle Prometheus could work his wonder and make another. I hope he makes another snappy, jazzy trailer.
Like he can find the music, I hope.
And then it's off to the races. I would like to.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, I'd like to get the process, get the comics done. I'm just having more fun. I decided because I would write the scripts. I don't. It's not time to write the script yet. So I'm just writing scripts as I get excited about them.
I couldn't tell.
So I'm getting a lot of fun. But you know what else is fun? This guy Cooper is a lot of fun.
Well, that remains to be seen.
And Cooper,
so far, so good.
Cooper used this link right here to get on John's Long Box.
It's right there.
Vegas TV. It's funny. My friend Mike, he was on. I interviewed him because he he did a comic, Marshall Strong comic, who exists in the Heroic Tales universe, and he came on to talk about his comic, and his son was upstairs. He's like, "Dad, you're on YouTube." It was the cutest thing, like we take it for granted. YouTube is just us idiots talking about stuff, but for little kids, this is TV.
Well, my
That's right.
nephews think I'm the coolest uncle because they can see me on YouTube.
Well, I'm gonna have to get my cat Butterscotch a YouTube account, an X account soon, if to get any more likes on that picture I posted.
Yep. There you go.
That's as much likes as I get on a piece of artwork, to be honest with you.
You'll get over 1,000 like overnight, man. Trust
get yourself a cat YouTube.
He was just sitting in the sink. Thank God. He'll go in with dirty dishes. Thank God there was a clean sink.
Oh.
He doesn't care.
Wins. Dale A says, he says, clobbering time, spirits versus ghosts. It's today. Normally I fall asleep on the train, but I've been filling up my thermos full of coffee, so I was wired on my train.
That's what you need. You need more coffee, John.
And I was just tweeting it like every thought. And
I saw that.
One of the things is, I forget why, but somebody said something about the Holy Ghost. And that's like an old thing. My parents used to say the Holy Ghost freaks me out. Like, ghosts are horror movie things, but the Holy Spirit to me sounds like more religious.
It's a King James version word for spirit.
So King James says ghost.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know. As a kid, I was always fascinated with the Holy Spirit, like,
Mm-hmm.
And what does it say? Like, it's a mortal sin to blaspheme against the Holy Spirit. Like, you can blaspheme against Jesus and God, but the Holy Spirit, that always, that and the fact that he's a ghost, kind of little bit of.
Well, if you're a Trinitarian like I am, you believe that he is God. So,
most Christians, the triune God. That's why, if I could get controversial here, when people say like, "Oh, Islam and Christian, they worship the same God," I would say, no, they don't. No, they don't.
No.
First off, they have different roots. Allah was a moon god, and Yahweh was a rain god. So, if you want to split hairs like that, but second, the Muslims, I said, do the Muslims recognize the Holy Ghost as God? No. Do they recognize? Nope. It's a different deity.
Mm-mm.
Same with Jews. Maybe it's started up, but whatever. But that's about as controversial as I like to get. I mean, the most controversy I want to get is, there's a guy with a bionic arm beat a guy who has sex with 14-year-old girls. England, what America will be? Yes, absolutely. I think hell, and I can't. I got guys at work that are like, "You see what Trump's doing? I'm trying to buy a car, and he's going to put tariffs on it." I'm just like,
he put the 30 days. And they voted for Trump.
And they just said, "Well, you're lucky because we would be dragged into a war. Whatever. Hey, Don, why don't you come in here? Don, come on in.
Yeah, come on, the healthy Don.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and
mm-hmm.
just in case anybody popped in and they don't see this, I always ask and I always forget the answer. If I put a star on this, does that mean you guys will see it all the time? Like,
if you pin it, yeah.
Yeah, I put a star on it. Is that the same as pin? Don's
pin is pinning, so I don't know.
Don is getting too skinny to come in. Maybe he's too handsome to hang out with us guys.
Uh-huh.
No contest.
I don't think I'll ever get that handsome.
That he was deep black pilled, conditioned by the Soviets and part of the winter. So we're getting into the deep lore yet. I love it. And they juiced him with the Weapon 1 serum. I didn't know that. He has a super soldier serum. I literally didn't know.
I don't.
It's the Infinity serum from the same stuff that went in Nick Fury.
Right.
But it's not as strong as super. It's not as strong as Captain America. It makes him live longer, have limited healing ability. Strong, but he's not as strong as Captain.
There he is. There's the star. Butterscotch. Push Marcus out of the way. And they juiced him with Weapon 1 serum. Deathstroke can't.
They don't really like it when I'm streaming the cast.
I don't care what your comic book logic says. Up against Buck, he's dead. See, this is the kind of passion that we need on It's Clobbering Time. Sometimes you see the sales tariff, but they don't feel the withhold income tax. Where John, maybe let those Nimrods know the Ford GM have plants in Canada. Those are American cars. Finally, Canada doesn't make. I know that's what he's saying. That he wants to buy a Ford, but
it's a better chance. Make sure they're made in Canada. Don't buy one from Mexico.
I said, well, then buy a Mitsubishi.
You know, but by the Hondas, all the Hondas are going to be made in America. Japan's going to move all the things here. All the Honda Civics will be here.
Old Dirty Fatty says, I know nothing about the Winter Soldier, so I'm just going to watch. Well,
Winter Soldier's kind of neat.
Well, maybe we'll learn. And of course, I always filibuster for 15 minutes or so to get people to wander in. But we got a bunch of people watching now. And remember, guys, you don't have to be a comic book creator. You know what I mean? You all you have to do is be somebody who likes comics and come on in and we'll talk comics. You know, just you know, that's it. That's it. So I don't want to be like clicky or anything like that. It's open to anybody, especially Butterscotch. What about you? Do you have any animals over there? You have any cute animals?
Me?
Yeah. Cooper.
Not anymore. Not anymore.
See, my cats are getting old and they won't come down the stairs. They stand at the stairs and howl.
Oh no, Butterscotch is only a couple of years old. This is the first time in years we've had young cats. We've had older cats for a long time.
I'm thinking of maybe like going to a shelter and adopting an old dog, you know, that nobody else would adopt. You know, give it a good end, because I don't want to build a fence for a puppy and everything like that. But an old dog, an old calm dog that's just, you know, somebody gave up. I think I want to do that. Have a good show, gents. Got to run. Hail to my brother Marcus tomorrow. Yes. Tomorrow is the studio. What you drawing? What you drawing tomorrow?
We are drawing Type 1, Sean Arnett's.
Oh,
did I pronounce his name right?
I thought that was just like cool guy slang that I didn't know.
That's a diabetic superhero, right?
Right.
Yeah. The diabetic.
He looks pretty cool. Imaging,
yeah,
but
cool. Raleigh, North Carolina.
Imaging, but cool.
Yep.
So okay. So it's for those of the people who are new. It's clobbering time. It's just we just talk about we at the end of the show we kind of vote for next week, and then we talk about who would win in an imaginary fight. This is a comic book fight, you know. We throw out the whole concept of prep time, because my rule, you know, my thing is, if any superhero has prep time and the other guy doesn't, the prep time superhero wins. So this is just kind of like they're both taken by surprise. So they go, oh, Grok is asking if I want to talk. I must have hit a button. Elon Musk.
Oh, I didn't. I was going to ask Grok about this. Actually, would add to the thing. Who's going to ask Grok?
Oh, that would be funny. We should do that
after
after
the end. We'll read that out and see if it equals what we said.
Right? Yeah, that'll be a fun way to end it. We'll
that might be an interesting way. I just thought of that.
All right. So since I got two guests and we got two contenders, either one of you guys want to pick somebody to champion? Normally, the format is we talk about one character, talk about their creation, you know, their history, their great stories, their villains and stuff like that. Then we do the other guy, and then we do the imaginary battle. So it's kind of like,
I know more about Winter Soldier than Deathstroke.
So you got Winter Soldier. How's that?
You could do Winter Soldier.
Marcus knows about everything.
Okay. Oh, okay.
I read. I did some.
I was surprised to know that he has a full-time job. I just thought he memorized comic book facts.
Oh, well, I did that when I was injured, John. I mean, I was home for 7 months after being severely injured on the job, and I that's what I did was I pirated a lot of comics and read a lot of blogs, and I have thousands and thousands of comics up on Pinterest. Yeah.
Wouldn't that be a great job? Just get hired to be like a comic book historian, like
Peter Sanderson, right? They've had those jobs.
Yeah, they don't. I don't.
Mark
think they
Waid was one of those guys at one time too.
So prep time is for Batman. Yeah. Like okay, so go ahead, Cooper. You're gonna talk now. Show's all yours.
All right, Winter Soldier, aka James Buchanan Bucky Barnes, born in 1925. In 1935, he lost both of his parents early in his life. His mother had died when he was a child, but his father died in an accident in basic training. And while he was he was left behind as an orphan, and he talked him into letting him stay at Camp Lehigh. And so he basically was kind of like a camp mascot. And then when Steve Rogers shows up, he kind of like started hanging out with Steve Rogers. Brubaker kind of retconned his origins a little bit and said that basically they discovered early on that Bucky was very good at infiltration and had no qualms about killing people. and so they basically turned him into a black ops soldier. But it was kind of kept on the down low because they thought Steve Rogers would have a problem with it. So basically, he was like the gee golly wish, Wiz, assistant to the Captain America, Bucky, and he basically, while Steve Rogers was like doing things like on the up and kind of like being a hero, Bucky was going behind the scenes and like murdering the shit out of people that they needed murdered along the way. And so this wasn't revealed until like later on.
Like 100 years later.
100 years, when he became Winter Soldier, it was revealed to, kind of Captain America, because he's like, where did he learn this? And it's like, he's always been this,
I'd like to add that the United States government really didn't want Captain America doing covert stuff either. It's not just all
right. They wanted him to keep his like his hands clean.
Yeah.
And so
they wanted him to be a symbol to aspire to. They didn't want him to be wet works and stuff like that.
And so
they want a 16-year-old kid to do it.
Yeah, so they've got a 14-year-old to do it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well,
that's an Epstein Island thing.
Well, he was the thing about it was he's very good at it. And he was so good at it that Steve, for all these years, didn't know that he was doing wet works, and he didn't really know until he was told by a Russian, like a general later on, and because his own government didn't tell him, Russian general did later, but along they went after Baron Zemo, and when they went after Baron Zemo, they were trying to basically deactivate a rocket, and his sleeve got caught, and the rocket took off, and he went with it, and the rocket exploded, and Steve always believed that Bucky died, and he pretty much was a close thing. I mean, it took his arm off, but he landed in the cold waters, and he was recovered by the Russians, and the Russian government checked him for like super soldier serum, and which he didn't have any, because he's with Steve Rogers, so they, thought he might be a super soldier, but they didn't have any, so they used the one formula they did have was the Infinity Serum, and they infused him with it, and because he's missing his arm, they gave him a replacement, and
so the United States government recovered him and gave him the Infinity.
No, Russia.
Okay.
Yeah, and because and they because the Russians and they're experts at brainwashing techniques, they brainwashed him into becoming a soldier. Yeah, for them. It's pretty well documented that they screw with people's heads pretty well.
Well, that was supposed to be like the same technology that they used for like the Black Widow. They kind of retconned the Black Widow came from this.
Yeah.
They were like a bunch of girls that thought they were going to become ballerinas, so they were fit, and exercise, they trained, and then they were basically brainwashed into becoming killers. So like they kind of retconned that there was more than one Black Widow. I mean, it kind of works. And then they also retconned that Black Widow was given the Infinity Serum also. That's why she could be around from the Cold War to now and still be super hot.
Well, I believe that was part of it. But reason why Bucky was able to stay young as he is for so long is because they would put him in cryostasis between jobs,
right?
And so he would assassinate somebody, usually pretty high profile, and then they would put him on ice until things cooled off. And so over the years, he became legend. Where if you heard about the Winter Soldier, somebody was going to die, and he also, along the way, he did have a tryst with Natasha Romanoff, and so that happened. But eventually,
who didn't?
Who didn't? I think I think everybody did. She got around.
Yeah, she got around.
They also implied that that's part of her powers is she has some sort of pheromone that makes you like desire her.
Well, because when did they decide that? Because that sounds like something. Well, we can't believe that any man would want a woman, so she must have a pheromone. Don't other men just like men in the Marvel universe?
You knew the superpower was not wanted her.
Well, that and the fact that she's a athletic redhead and stacked.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, I don't believe pheromones is really needed in that case. But anyway, so eventually they decide to send the Russian general. They decide to send after the Red Skull to get the Kobik cube, or the cosmic cube, and to do so, he basically runs up against Captain America, and Captain America discovers that Bucky is still alive, and during the course of their fight together, Captain America gets a hold of the Kobik cube and restores his memories to him. He doesn't get rid of the programming. He just restores his memories as Bucky Barnes. And so for the next little while, he has to kind of work through the fact that he's been assassinated. He has all the memories of assassinating these people. He has all the memories of all the horrible things he's done. And yet he also has a memory of him, from his childhood up, restored to him. And so it takes him a while to kind of like get that straightened out. But eventually, he does get it straightened out, and he starts helping Captain America, kind of like he used to. But if you want to go even further than that, it gets really, really freaking complicated.
And Cooper's telling the comic stories. The movie story is very similar, but there are a little,
it's a little simpler.
The comic story took years to unravel.
Fortunately for us, it was written by one guy, Ed Brubaker, for most of that time, and drawn by mostly Epting and a couple of guys, and Mike Perkins. Yeah. So it was good. It was good. I mean, I think it was the worst thing they could do is bring back Bucky Barnes or Uncle Ben. They brought back Bucky, and it was good, proving that you can do retcons and stuff if they're good. Except that's hard.
It was Bucky Barnes and Jason Todd, and they managed to bring both of them back pretty successfully.
And I have to say that when I heard that they were bringing back Bucky, I was livid because
a lot of people were,
and I was like, because guys, I don't know if you youngins remember, but like back in the 90s, and it was a joke. Nobody stays dead but Bucky and Uncle Ben.
Yeah. Yep.
Like people used to say, like editors used to say that, like it was just understood, and maybe Gwen Stacy they would throw in there, you know what I mean? Yeah. But now everybody's coming.
Gwen.
But Ed Brubaker is a man. He is a very freaking talented man.
You got three people.
He could be a little woke, but he's a really good writer.
Well, we will agree that the Winter Soldier story turned out to be a good story. Now, I got a little philosophical question. Is it a retcon?
I don't. I think the initial part of him being a black ops soldier who did wet work was the retcon.
Okay, that I'll agree with, because that kind of changes a little bit in the past. But adding stuff that we didn't like, to me, a retcon has to change something.
Well,
like to say, like, oh, Ben Grimm, he was never a pilot. Ben Grimm was a race car driver. That would be a retcon, because we know that Ben Grimm was a pilot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
so to me, this isn't a retcon. Like, because I have a problem with retcons. Like, I just have fundamental. I'm going to get rid of this picture just for a bit. I fundamentally have a problem with retcons, because I always feel like, who are you to change?
Yeah.
Somebody, like, even if if you hired somebody, Phil Moskowitz is my go-to imaginary guy that I attack, and Phil Moskowitz writes a horrible Punisher story, like where he's an angel and comes back. Like,
that happened.
I know that I didn't want to attack Michael Golden, because I actually Chris Golden, I think his name. I actually like him. He wrote some good story, and he just did what the editors told him, so I can't blame him. Yeah. But you have to keep that story. Like, you got to work around that story. I don't feel it's right to,
Well, I think when you're talking retcons, you're talking about something that fundamentally changes everything that you believed about that character.
But this wasn't a retcon, because they it didn't really interfere. It was like an insertion that.
It's more of an insertion, because, of course, we never knew in the 40s. We didn't know anything about the sidekicks. They just showed up, and they were like 13-year-old kids who could somehow beat up adults in all sorts of cutesy ways.
Right.
And Jack Kirby particularly felt like the sidekick gave like the reader somebody to look up to.
Yeah.
Kind of, so he
Well,
likes
it brought the younger
sidekicks.
it brought the younger people into the yard. It brought
right.
them
But
back.
Stan Lee hated sidekicks, which is
I
why
hated
Bucky didn't come back with Captain America.
Yeah,
I hated sidekicks too. Like
Hated him. He didn't like any of them.
I hated Robin. Like I hated Robin until I was an adult.
Robin was different because Robin was needed because Batman was so dark and violent, and when they got popular, they can never stay as dark and violent. And he was a needed person to lighten up the book. I mean, it's ridiculous to have the kid in underwear, green underwear. He doesn't even have shorts on, and this weird light costume running around. But it was needed to kind of lighten Batman up. Now, did he have to be his partner all the time? I would say no. They probably should have had every third story he had Robin, not every story. That way, Batman would have kept his Dark Knight thing even in the 40s.
Right.
But
a retcon, it stands for retroactive continuity. Like making the 50s Captain America, Commie Smasher, to make him not Steve Rogers, to me was a retcon.
I always say Timeless Children is like the worst example of a retcon.
But but you know what? The first retcon, it's at What If number 4, not 3. 3 was the What If the Avengers had died. It's 4. What if Captain America lived through World War II, and Roy Thomas wrote it, and that became the thing where first the Spirit of 76 became Captain America, and then he died, and then Jeff Mace found him, and Jeff Mace became Captain America until he retired with the guy who was the Yankees bat boy as Bucky for all those years, Fred Davis, I think, and that was the one What If comic that became canon because it filled in all the things, because it was that big gap, and Roy has to answer,
that's Roy
explain all those things, which he's good at, thank God.
Roy Thomas wrote an entire Invaders story explaining why Namor had black shorts in the 40s and green shorts in modern DC.
Well,
the guy could change his shorts. You know what I mean? You don't need to write
Namor didn't have powers in the 50s. I mean, he just could, he didn't have super strength. They had to bring it back. They depowered him. He was there. He had adventures throughout the 50s. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
So, and then they brought back, and then they finally, they made up that, who was this guy who was in three issues of Captain America and a couple more issues of something else? Who was this guy, Commie Smasher? Well, if you were going to go to the liberals of the, of the 70s, like Steve Englehart would decide, and Roy Thomas would decide that, like, he's the worst racist known to mankind, because God forbid, it was the 50s. Everybody was racist, right?
Right.
And they brought him back, which was a really exciting story, and I really liked it, and I would reread it. But today it would be called the world ham-handed thing.
I agree with this sentiment right here.
I'd say Logic Finest always has. Even when I disagree with Logic Finest, I appreciate his comments. Retcons can work when done well. Yes, Magneto was retconned from Magnus into Eric Lensher, a Jewish Holocaust survivor, but that's the exception to I don't like retcon. Absolutely. Now, the only issue I have, and I'm not speaking like was it a retcon? Because did we ever really know? Because Magnus, even when they told me his name was Magnus, I just thought that was like another alias, like short for Magneto, kind of like, I'm not telling you. Like, I never thought he was born. His mom named him Magnus. But so I don't know. And again, I'm asking. I'm not telling.
Is that
a retcon, or is that just a perfect example?
When you think about, we get the origins of the X-Men and Magneto, and then we have Magneto and Professor X, and they come to and they're fully formed. Like Xavier's the adult. He's going to lead. He's going to teach them how to be, mutants and use their powers. And the villain is fully formed, who has a problem with Xavier. And we don't know their whole. It was more like filling in that background story. Like, we never knew. He fought in that mind battle. Remember that one in John Byrne run where the whole issue was a mind battle with this other guy in Cairo, Egypt. Yeah, we never knew about, because we don't know.
Yeah.
So it's not really a retcon as much as a add-on.
Like filling in details to an old story that doesn't contradict anything. That's not a retcon. And like my whole story about fixing the Marvel Universe is kind of like inserting stuff from a past story, but I don't consider it a retcon. But a retcon would be like, okay, Wolverine just comes out now, and he's not Canadian. He's a Russian guy that was, you know what I mean? Like, that's literally like, okay, here's a retcon. Kamala Khan is in Dark Phoenix story. You know what I mean? That's a retcon.
Yeah, that's bad.
That's a retcon. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's a good thing to establish the terms that we're using. Not everybody is a comic book super geek that knows all these stupid. A guy asked me today what was a pull list on Twitter. You know,
I saw that. I was shocked,
and I was just like, oh yeah, not everybody knows what we're talking about.
Right.
I agree about Robin, but he also functions as the Dark Knight Squire. Yeah. When you put it that way, yeah. I just my problem with Robin really was the costume. Like once they kind of explained, oh, he's not Robin like a bird, he's Robin like Robin Goodfellow.
Well, Tim Drake definitely got a better.
Yes,
better into that one.
Every Robin except for Dick Grayson had a better costume. Yes, I agree.
Well, they wanted to. They didn't want to change that because so much money was wrapped up in the costume. It's not just because I'm sure there was. I remember in the 70s comics, they were like fans would come in. We gotta change this costume. They send in sketches and stuff.
Right.
So
we all read Brad.
Burt Ward actually had to do quite a bit of tucking to wear that costume.
Unfortunately, I read Backpack. Yes.
Yeah, Brat Pack. I think it's a great comic to read once, but oh my god, is it dark?
My god, you really think of Rick Veitch's mental capability? Oh my god, he's not wrong, but it's not something you want to think about.
It's a perfect example of like, be careful what you wish for, because I'm reading the James Robinson Fantastic Four. I realized I'm still missing 2 issues, so I'm getting the last 2 issues.
Which one is that? The James Robinson fit?
They had red costumes. It was right before Dan.
I remember that. Yeah.
And the thing is, in the very first issue, Reed Richards' negative zone portal explodes, and all these creatures come out of the negative and wrecks Manhattan. And then next thing you know, they're all like, how do you have a negative zone portal in the middle of Manhattan? How do you have rocket launch pads? And the Fantastic Four get arrested and the children get taken away, because how do you have children living in a building with a negative zone portal?
Yeah, well, you can't be that. Yeah,
right. And it's stuff that I've always been saying. And then when it finally happened, I'm like, this is dark and I don't like it. So be careful what you wish for. Yeah. So like growing Robin up and stuff like that.
It can't be as bad as FF Grand Design. Tom Scioli. First of all, I do the whole thing like Kirby, but in little teeny panels. And then when Franklin was born, he had dark hair like Namor and had gills. So then he just turned Reed Richards into a cuck. And I'm like, what the hell is Scioli doing? He thinks this is funny? Who the hell listens to Fantastic Four? Who the hell are you? I was pissed. I don't say much when I get pissed about this stuff. I was mad. I was like, F this guy.
But now I don't want to read it. It's over there.
Now I'm sorry. Well, that's not like the spoiler. It's no spoilers. It's it's history of the Fantastic Four. But these guys like him and Ed Piskor and Jim Runk all did these things, and they think they were too clever by half. We're the indie guys, and we're going to stick in whatever the heck we want.
Oh, I will say, if anybody mind if I give a spoiler about the James Robinson Fantastic Four that I did appreciate, I'll stutter for a couple of seconds to see if anybody says no in the comments. I'll stutter for a couple of seconds. Okay, there you go. What who the bad guys? Well, some of the bad guys are, not the main bad guy. The Heroes Reborn, the Rob Liefeld Avengers.
Oh, that's pretty good.
They came out of the negative zones, so it's funny. Yeah. They're like one of them goes, this fool saying he's Hawkeye with that horrible costume. That's not Hawkeye. I was like, yes, vindicated. Logic Finest says Chris Claremont said that he retconned Magneto into Eric Lensher and gave him an entire new backstory because he wasn't fully fleshed out.
Right. Well,
again, and I'm not arguing with Logic Finest, but I don't ever recall there being a backstory for Magneto other than he was that he was a gypsy that was the father of Magneto and father.
Yeah, that's the one that one did come out.
Right. So, you know what? Now I'm starting to realize Logic is right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. My memory is
it's like a whole Mount One decor.
That's right. He was a gypsy. Right. And I think that made him too much like Dr. Doom. And plus, it's kind of cool to put him in. But they could have kept him as a gypsy in the Holocaust, because people forget that gypsies were rounded up too.
They were all killed too.
The Eternals movie, I'm mad at Logic's Finest for even bringing up that movie.
I didn't see it.
That movie,
I knew well enough not to go to that movie.
The 2 things that bothered me about that,
only two.
The 2 main things is It's a superhero movie. It shouldn't have been boring. And second, how dare you think that you know the Eternals better than Jack Kirby? Like, what do you change to Jack Kirby for? I can see cleaning up a little bit of, like, complications and stuff like that. I got no problems with that. What they did with Iron Man, I thought they did a really good job, like cleaning his origin up and stuff like that. But, the Eternals movie, who are you to know? But believe me, if I was to make an Eternals movie, it would be like, I would even have like Kirby technology in the background. Like, and the fact that all the deviants were the same CI model, the whole thing about the deviants is they're supposed to be the ultimate diversity. Each one is its own species. You know what I mean? That they're supposed to be completely different from everybody. The children are completely different than them, and it was the same CGI model. It just proved to me that they didn't get the Eternals, and the fact that Icarus was like a slave. They were slaves to the Celestials. They completely missed the point.
The Masters of the Universe movie is closer to a New Gods movie than.
Oh, really?
Yeah, apparently the one with Dolph Lundgren and Frank Langella.
Really? Now I'm curious to watch it.
That's what John Byrne said.
I've always hated He-Man.
Well, good news. Chloe Zhao, who did the Eternals, is doing the Buffy the Vampire Slayer reboot.
Oh, that'll be awesome.
Wait.
That'll be awesome. Strange how
I knew that name. I knew that name was something popping up again.
I remember Grant Morrison tried to introduce the Positive Zone, and it didn't go over too well.
I read that Grant Morrison limited series of the Fantastic Four. That was bad.
You know what I love?
Did the art.
Well, it
the art
was cool how they used it in Civil War, though, as a prison. I thought that was pretty cool, using the negative zone as a prison.
I'm using a lot of Kirby Crackle in issue 2 of Heroic Tales and the Mary Sue story. And it's funny because I just said Kirby Crackle, Renzo, go nuts. And it was great because he knew exactly what to do. Yeah. I enjoyed
Kirby Crackle in Spanish.
Kirby El Crackle. I enjoyed the Masters of the Universe 1980. I should watch it. Frank Langella.
Well, we're way afield.
I'm going to doubt on that one. I'm going to doubt on that one.
Bucky Barnes.
Yeah. Okay, so we talked about Bucky. Bucky was we got on a sidetrack about, was it a retcon? Was it, parts of it were a retcon, parts of it weren't a retcon. They changed a few things. Like, Bucky really was on the whole, good kid with Captain America, like everybody. But then they changed it. Like, Captain America would leave and Bucky would be like, okay, I'm just gonna go and go get an ice cream cone, and then like strangle somebody to death and then come. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how I feel about that.
Bucky is a sociopath. Yeah, that's great.
Do you remember that the what was it, Original Sin? Bucky became the Watcher, and then they kind of forgot about that.
It became Watcher on the Wall, the man on the wall.
Yeah.
That was that one where Nick Fury becomes a Watcher, and they found out that Nick Fury, behind all the superheroes' backs, were like murdering all alien species that were coming to Earth, and nobody knew. And it was so awful that nobody would want to be him.
It's called Original Sin. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
I basically, when I do these things, like when I do my character autopsies, I stop at like the place where things got ridiculous. So I go from like the beginning up to where everything went stupid, and I just stopped there. So in this case, with Bucky Barnes, I would stop like right after Brubaker's run. So everything after that just got weird. So except for Brubaker making him Captain America later, which should have happened in the MCU. So
Bucky, he was Captain America's sidekick. He was the all-American boy. Later on, we found out that he was doing the work that the United States government was giving Bucky the assignments to keep Captain America's hands clean. You know what I mean? And most likely Captain America probably wouldn't like it, and object to it. So that kind of bothered me because it made a wedge between them. You know what I mean? And then they brought him back, against his will, kind of thing. I love the name the Winter Soldier. That's one of those names that when they introduced it, I was like, how did nobody come up with that name before that?
Well, it's like a communist kind of like allegory. There's like I think there's an actual like or like a Russian mythology there.
Right. Yeah. It came up a lot in the during the 80s and everything. I think it just meant like a tough soldier. Like these guys are winter soldiers, because throughout the history of humankind, except for the last 100 years or so, the month of March was called March because that's when soldiers would start marching. Wars were called off in the winter for most of human history. And little mythological fact: Ares, the god of war, was originally the god of agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
He because of farming, and people got to settle down, and villages were formed that standing armies were able to make, and so there's this whole idea of like farming caused the ability to wage war because it caused societies and civilizations and permanent settlements and things like that. So I just like all that stuff. It has nothing to do with anything. So Marcus, save me from babbling by talking about Deathstroke the Terminator.
Well, Deathstroke is Slade Wilson, father of Wade Wilson, Deadpool.
Spiritual.
Pretty much in so
father.
many ways. And he's a supervillain. He's not unlike the Winter Soldier, in which he is also an assassin. He's also a master assassinator.
Mm-hmm.
But and he had a super soldier serum, because once Captain America, everybody's got to get super soldier serum.
Yeah, but
that enhanced his abilities much more than and so he has superhuman abilities, including using 90% of his brain, or so they say. They retconned that, but that's what I was reading about it.
That was like a thing as a kid. I would correct people. I'm like, we wouldn't have evolved a brain and not use it. We all use 100% of our brain. We just don't understand what most of it does, because we have, that's just like one of those science facts gone wrong. And
then he was created by George Perez and Marv Wolfman, or whichever, and he had his own comic for a long time because they rehabilitated him into kind of a sort of hero when he was a really awful human being. He enlisted in the army at 16, and he participated in the Korean War. And in the early 60s, he met his wife, who tasked to training him, and so he could, assassinate people in Vietnam.
Adrian,
was amazing.
Right?
Well, Adeline Kane wasn't his wife. He met his wife later. Sorry, I flipped them. And he was really, and he learned everything about modern war. He learned all the martial arts. He was trained in guerrilla warfare. This is way before he got superpowers. So he was already amassed somebody who would be completely intimidating and hard to deal with, whether he had superpowers or not. Then they gave him a super soldier serum, which made him a superhuman. Like, we don't think Captain America's superhuman. Captain America's just that the movie Captain America's superhuman, but the one in the comics is not supposed to be. He is superhuman. He's super strong. He's super fast. You're not like Superman super fast, but he's so much so that losing one eye does not affect his abilities.
He was able to stab Kid Flash. He took on the Teen Titans, and last week we talked about what a powerhouse team the Teen Titans were. By himself.
Well, he took him on by himself.
Yeah, he used leverage against Wonder Girl and was tossing her around. He stabbed Kid Flash in the leg so he couldn't run. He was a badass.
Well, he was one of those guys. It's like watching these shows, like reading about these guys like Levon Cade, Reacher, all these type of things where they know they have the advantage because they know like every muscle to snap so you can't walk.
Right.
Even without killing you. Like they have all that knowledge, that super military assassination knowledge way before he got superpowers. He had 2 kids.
3.
3, right. But yeah. One, Joseph Wilson, who became Jericho, and that kind of did him in later in life. And also got his wife to try to kill him. He lost his eye.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would also say that he once he's on a contract, he can't be bought off the contract.
Right. That's like his code. If he's a mercenary.
Right. So the only time he failed to kill the Teen Titans for Hive.
Right. So he made it like his personal mission to kill the Teen Titans.
Right, because his son, and that also his son became the Ravager, and he ended up dying fighting the Teen Titans. So that like
he had the son,
and he particularly hated Robin.
and then later he had the girl daughter who became the female Ravager.
Right.
Jericho, the trumpet guy. Now Joe Wilson with the creepy blonde afro and the sideburns, and the horribly bad costume and the weird power of like possessing people, and he had his throat slit.
Mm-hmm. That's why he couldn't talk.
He couldn't talk, and he did sign language. And to me, that was like the moment the Teen Titans jumped the shark when they introduced. I didn't even mind Cole.
But that's also why his wife Adeline was so enraged. And she also she trained him, helped train him, and she tried to shoot him, but she only hit his right eye, and he managed to live. So that's why he covered up, and he doesn't even care whether his eye's there or not. His other eye's so good it doesn't matter.
Right.
Yeah. So he's kind of like the evil Captain America, if you will. Plus. So his powers wise, I mean, he's really, really strong. He's really, really smart. Like,
now that you're talking about him, to me, he's DC's Taskmaster.
Kind of.
Except where Taskmaster originally trained henchmen, you know what I mean? He was not supposed to, but later on they kind of evolved into like the same character. Like that would be a fight. Taskmaster.
Well, if you look at his costume here and Taskmaster's original costume, they're kind without the cape. It's kind of similar with the. Well, you see where Liefeld get all the bullets in the pockets from Perez.
Aren't they both George Perez designs?
Yes.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
So his how much do you want to go into Deathstroke? Because Deathstroke history is way more complicated than Winter Soldier's history because he's been around forever, and they have a lot of details of him. But one of the biggest things he did, and the most controversial thing, was he had Terra, Geo-Force's sister, at 14 or so, infiltrate and become the a part of the Teen Titans, which went really quickly as uncommon. We trust you after one time.
Yeah,
that's
a comic book thing, Guy shows up in a mask,
but at the end, like she's smoking a cigarette at the end, and she's in bed with this guy. I mean, I think Christopher Priest said Marv Wolfman created a whole new villain. I mean, this is like the sleaziest guy ever,
right?
Which I think that you don't see him in DC Universe too much now. They used to have him around all the time.
It's called the Jericho contract, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
The Judas contract. The Judas contract. To me, if anybody's not familiar with the Teen Titans and like, what should I do? Pick up the trade paperback of the Judas contract. It's
he takes everybody out, him and Terra, and it was all a fake. Oh, that's a spoiler.
Yep. Well,
sorry, don't read it now.
Yeah, we just spoiled a 55-year-old comic, ladies and gentlemen.
We just went in and we said how powerful the Titans were, like you were saying, and there's like the Judas contract, the Titans plague, where he takes out the Titans every time he shows up. And basically, but DC ended up rehabbing him since he was a mercenary, so that he could have his own comic book and then like deal with villains maybe worse than him. But I didn't get his comic book, so I don't know.
I got his comic because I'm a crazy person. But
it's a nice looking comic.
It was. I just got it because I was a crazy completionist. I still am. But there was a point where he went nuts and he killed Wintergreen. Wintergreen was like his Alfred from the very first.
They said that he killed Wintergreen because Jericho took over his mind.
Yeah, that kind of, he was already ruined, but like
he was the bodyguard for Dr. Lecter in Identity Crisis, which I did get, which was pretty awful.
There's a Teen Titans movie called The Judas Contract. I'm sure it's the same story, but
it is the same story.
I'm sure they keep out the Terra part of the story.
But
no, they didn't.
Oh, really?
No, they just made Terra look a little older. So
okay. On Logic's Finest, I want to address this comment before it floats away. This deconstruction of heroes came from postmodernism. Okay, I'll buy that. I think it went too far. I definitely buy that. And then open the door for the woke mind virus and the removal of strong male role models. I don't know if deconstruction, because everything led to woke. Even like football, and there was no deconstruction in football.
Well, there was this article the other day where they were saying that the only way forward is to bring back strong males, but they were afraid that because in a post-Trump world that they're going to go too far and bring back all the like the toxic males and that.
But
And it was kind of
what's a toxic
it's like
male?
it was
I
so
mean-
disingenuous. It's like there is no
But
such
they-
thing
but
as
the
toxic
pendulum-
masculinity. There's only
the pendulum's got to
masculinity.
swing, and then the pendulum, finds an equilibrium.
But there's,
At the same time, they were saying that like the only way forward is to bring these the masculine men back, but we're afraid if they do bring men back that it'll ruin.
Or how about
doing. And it's like,
how
but
about we
they're
stop
acknowledging
social
what they're doing is
engineering?
killing the whole entire like.
How about we stop social engineering and just let the consumers decide what they want?
But they've been
What a
social
great
engineering
idea.
since the 60s. This is not, everybody says, my theory of woke and what's going with LGBT stuff was it was plodding
with the baby
along from the
boomers.
late, about the hippie times, the late
Hippies.
60s.
Yep.
The communists didn't want to go to Vietnam, and they became teachers and professors, and they
Yep.
created Sesame Street. Sesame Street started shortening our attention span. That's a Peter David thing, but I think he's kind of right. And was one of the original things. If you look at the Latin girl and a black woman, it had one of everybody, and it was really about the South Bronx, and that's where I think it started. Now we all watched that Street came out because that was just one or two things. One or two things doesn't matter. But since the 70s, they've been de-emphasizing boys, and because I had
And
two
also
boys, and they fought
rural
again, and
communities.
they went through
Also
that. But
rural
most of the time,
communities.
when I was a kid, the girls got asked the questions. We didn't get always asked the questions, but we were still allowed to be rough and tumble and play football and do all that stuff. So I think that's been going slow, and they were happy enough. And the overturning was gay marriage. All we want to do is get married. All we want to do is get married. We don't want anything else. And as soon as they got that, that was it. That was it. They wanted everything else. And when Trump got in 2016, it went times 100. You go, this guy Trump is in, that's going to ruin us. We're going to really push hard and get this as much possible as we can, because they knew he was going to get rid of it, which he's doing now.
They tried to concentrate it and shove it down throats with the ESG, which
Much more than they did, because if you go back and watch 70s, 80s shows, there's Good Times and there's the Cosby Show. There's plenty of shows that, and there was something like there was always a diverse cast at some point,
I don't know why, but for some reason, Cosby Show is not around anymore. I don't know why. I can't.
I think you can find it rerun somewhere. I don't know, but
so Logic Finest.
You know what I mean?
God, I'm not saying it's the only. I know you. I know Logic. I know you simplifying for basically a tweet. One of them called it. Yes, absolutely. Yes.
But comics are the worst of this, because
absolutely
hardcore Hollywood is bad, and it's easy to turn over comics and to get the DEI money ESG money that they were getting from the Obama administration and the U.S. aid. They can easily Warner Brothers and Disney, or whoever owned Marvel before Disney, could easily do that in the comics and not affect other parts of their businesses at first. Because it's easy.
The reason why it was so insidious, the reason why comics is so insidious is because comics are our hero fiction. And hero fiction is the way that what teaches young boys how to become men. And so by ruining our hero fiction and feminizing it, now young men don't know how to become, or young boys don't know how to become men.
Absolutely.
And that's why we have so many man boys around.
I remember my uncle, he was from California, and he moved to New York to get a job. So his family and he was just like, kind of lonely and stuff. And we would read comics, and he was just like, he goes, this is like Greek mythology, but for America. I remember he was reading the X-Men, and he's like, this is American mythology. And I was a little kid, and I was like, wow. Like, to me, that was such a profound thing, but you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. And Marcus, you made me think of something when you were just talking. I didn't want to interrupt you, but you don't remember your boy Zach was saying the ESG money, you just become woke and they give you money. And he's like, that's not how it works. And
no, it worked.
And now we found out that's exactly how it works.
We found out earlier than
exactly
that.
How it
he was,
That's exactly how it works.
Well, he's got his own problems now.
So now I wonder, I've been kind of out of the loop as far as mainstream comic press and news and stuff. Did Marvel just lay off a bunch of people and cut comics? Or
I don't know. IDW did.
I know they're
companies.
But I heard that Marvel canceled a third of their line of comics.
Let's see. I'll see if it comes up.
But I just wonder if this is part of it. Like, you know,
They're shoving Kamala into all of their X-Men, so
I know they won't
they're going to
stop.
kill that whole entire line.
Yeah,
they're definitely going to kill that whole entire line.
I just don't understand it.
She's not going to happen, Sama Amanat. I know she's you, but she's not going to happen.
There's a family of mind viruses where the expectations don't match reality, and the infected assume malice, conspiracy, systemic oppression. Yes, you know what's funny is that years ago, I the superheroes in my world, the thing that makes them superheroes also starts affecting their brains. Like, so literally they'll get like, I don't want to spoil it, but there's a way to get superpowers. Well, there's two ways because there's magic, but there's one way to get regular, but then you get the power to breathe underwater and super strength, and you start saying, yeah, I'm the king of Atlantis. You start going crazy, and you literally believe you're the king of Atlantis. And when people confront you, no, you're Cooper. You remember you went through this process, and I'm the king, and you go berserk, you know, and then that's, you know, what happens in Heroic Tales. So I spoiled a big storyline.
But they laid off Marvel Rivals, laid people off.
Okay. I heard Marvel. Hail to the panel. Hail Smokey the Concat.
Oh, it's Smokey. Hey, Smokey.
Rom's Space Knight is an allegory for a man sacrificing his comfortable life to protect his family and country. Absolutely. Rom had no business being as good as it did. It was a freaking bad toy. I hated the toy. I call it the inaction figure.
Chip Shooter didn't even like Bill Mantlo that much.
You know, and that comic, I keep saying 5 years ago, but now I'm realizing it's got to be about 10 years ago. I reread the entire Rom run and the Micronauts.
I liked Rom.
It was a good comic, and now I think they just put out an omnibus. Guys, if you got a couple of dollars to spare and you want to read some good, I hate to say nostalgia, because to me those are like prime comics. You know, get rid of. I don't want to get rid of Kamala because I don't like, but I want to prove that a good writer could make a bad character.
Jack Kirby said there are no bad characters, only bad creators.
I want somebody to take Kamala Khan, and
except for that one's not a character. That's Kamala Khan. That's Sama Amanat.
Yeah, well, he didn't live to
it's
see
not
Kamala.
A character, it's Sama Amanat.
That's a good point. It is Sama Amanat. Yeah, she's evil.
Problems with. I got problems with you boys, Zach. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, diversity in comics, comics matter. Richard C. Meyer. I have problems with him, but he's absolutely right. She has no story. She has no struggle. Like, you know, like he had a compelling story. He made up a story for Kamala Khan that she comes from a conservative Muslim family. He goes, what they got to do is a nice little Catholic boy hits on Kamala Khan. She likes him. How does the family react to that? That's a good story. And then the other thing he said is the brother is secretly gay. You know what I mean? This is good family drama for Kamala Khan. But of course, she's perfect and she's lecturing Captain Marvel. And
well, the problem with the boy Zach isn't that he wasn't not right. For a long time, he was right.
Right.
But to me, and I don't know him, but I'm from listening to him and from the history that people explain about him, he does not deal with success very well, and he shoots himself in the foot. Absolutely. So he's way up there after he starts everything. He has the big thing with John, and everybody loves that book. And it started this, and he live streamed with everybody. I wasn't here when he did all the live streaming, and everybody really got to know him.
I remember all of that.
And he decided he hated all that. It was the worst thing ever, and he quit. And then he liked Twitter, and he loved Twitter, and he loved Twitter, and he was fighting with people. He loved to fight with people, and then he quit that. Now he's on YouTube, which he treats like Twitter, and then he quits that. Now he was right wing, white ring. He was saying that Trump wasn't going to win the whole time until he won. And now, as soon as Trump he's left wing. He's acting left wing. Now he's not wrong about all those people he called the birthday party clowns. He's right,
but who cares?
But 6 months of beating on him. If I were one of those guys, I'd find him and I'd knock the guy out. What the heck are you talking about? I don't think that they should be making a living on YouTube, but this is America. You can make a living on YouTube. That's kind of the charm of the country. It's a waste, but you're not helping anybody, but it is what it is.
The perfect example of the self-sabotage is in the first issue of Jawbreakers. He kills all the characters.
He kills them all. That's exactly right.
And then he goes...
It was the second one.
Joe Rogan invites him on the Joe Rogan show, and he doesn't go. What the F? You know,
but he did go on the Jim Jeffers show.
Yeah, and he went.
Jim
and
Jeffers
he went. He got a $6 haircut.
Yeah, and he went
Looked
on
like with a
professional
Hitler
comedian.
haircut. Yeah.
Yeah, he self-sabotaged, and now he's cheering as people unsubscribe from his channel. But
So
Patty says we used to have more coming-of-age ceremonies through our culture, but those, yep.
So, so he comes up with some good points here or there still, but they're few and far between. I used to listen to him. Well, he was a little boring and make me fall asleep while I was driving, so I could not listen to him all that much. You got to listen to him on like 2 and 2 speed because,
like I said, I was one of his insiders, and I was, if you go back and the proof is in. You could see he in one of his early videos he talks about this guy's an electrician over at Marvel, and he was blah blah. That was me. That was me. Interesting power origin. What we talked about so much stuff. I kind of lost track of what you took. Zach, could you just
your power origins? I think about how you treat the powers in your genres.
How did I find
this
channel? Very unlucky to stumble upon this channel.
Let's call it the Booaverse.
Yeah, but this is just every Friday night, 8:30. You're invited, Sierra Arnold. If you want to pop in and
getting
talk.
Back to Deathstroke, I guess. So he's the Teen Titans villain. He fought everybody else, and then he became the Green Arrow villain because he fought Green Arrow in the TV show, and because Manu Bennett was acting, and the first 3 seasons that he was involved, it was the best seasons of that show. I watched season 4, which I still like those characters, and that was, of all the CW shows, that was the best one.
Everybody, I never watched,
partially because of that.
I hated Smallville so much. I never watched any CW.
I never watched Smallville. The whole idea of Smallville, I said, well, the guy never becomes Superman. Why am I watching this?
Oscar Crana, how you doing, Oscar? How's everything?
But people like it, so I might be wrong.
Oscar's my buddy, my super talented buddy that's doing all that artwork for Eddie is Doom that I keep
so we could get, yeah, that's terrific artwork, Oscar. He's been bragging about it all day. Give him some time, and we'll know the whole story before.
Yeah, I want to spoil it, but anyway, so Deathstroke was a powerhouse. He was designed to take out a powerhouse team. His power fluctuates. They made him, I think, a little bit more human over the years. He was a detestable person, like you said. He was basically murderer for hire, pedophile. Like, there's nothing redeemable about that character. And then I don't want to say they retconned him, but DC kind of retcons itself.
They softened him a little. They
if the 2025 Deathstroke is the same Deathstroke of
and we do joke about Deadpool and Deathstroke, but that is true. Rob Liefeld did base Wade Wilson on kind of.
Oh, he did. I always thought that was just a joke. I didn't realize that there was.
I think he actually admitted it at one point.
No, he wanted to do Deathstroke, and they wouldn't let him. So that's why he left DC. Because he was having. Well,
if you listen to
he was butthurt over that, and that's why.
Oh man, if only
he had all that power at DC, and all he was doing was Hawk and Dove, and they were heavily changing his artwork to be publishable.
Yeah.
So
man,
come on,
if they only let him do Deathstroke, we wouldn't have to suffer through Cable and Deadpool. If only
I told you this story that I had a friend who was one of the Ramita Raiders. Actually, they were the Pearl and Plunderers by that point. And he was doing him and a couple other guys who got into comics were doing the fixes, different costumes, the whiteout. They were apprentices. And he said that New Mutants #4, that annual #4, that famous one that people, Liefeld, it was unpublishable, the artwork. They pretty much, that team of artists, young artists, were they just got out of college, or pretty much redrew that whole book. He said he was one of the reasons Marvel treated him as a joke. And when they had Youngblood, they put that on the thing and they laughed and they labeled them all the X-Men characters. And they put it on the door. They didn't take him seriously at all. Bob Harris liked him though because it was exciting. The kids loved it. 13-year-old kids loved it.
Like I said, I like Rob Liefeld.
I don't know much how I don't know how much I like Rob Liefeld either. To be honest with you, he's good when he's not talking about himself, which is rare.
Or posted creepy pictures of his kid working out.
I wish he would change his avatar.
But anyway,
follow him on Twitter.
I don't think it. So now Deathstroke's in the comics. I can't really talk about.
Oscar is a good point, though.
As a child, Deathstroke was a scary villain. Now he's more like,
I think that's about right.
And again, this is DC's fault. This is one of the things that I get upset with DC is the Crisis on Infinite Earths to me was a big freaking deal, and I loved it, and I still love it. But the problem is they didn't commit to the bit. They should have canceled every comic book, started everything at one, and not retold the same story.
They didn't cancel Superman or Wonder Woman until way after. They held them back. They waited for Byrne. And in Wonder Woman, they can't. In Wonder Woman, they have to publish every month because the Moulton estate, if they don't publish her every month, will take it over. They don't make hardly any money off of Wonder Woman. That's why they don't promote her that much.
Anyway, my point that I was trying to make is I don't know if this scary anti-hero Punisher Deathstroke is the same one. There could be arguments that all the characters every 5 years are reiterations. And it's hard for me to get emotionally involved with these characters, which is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to get mostly invested in a character. But if it's just going to reboot every 5 years, like we all like Sherlock Holmes, but like, do you really care if the next version of Sherlock Holmes is played by Lucy Liu as opposed to Robert Downey Jr. as opposed to
Hey, I like that one. That Watson was Lucy Liu. I like that show.
But you know what I mean? It's like, because you just know it's going to change every time, but there is no real continuity. But like, I want Superman. But anyway,
John Miller played Holmes in that one.
John Holmes played John Holmes. Sorry is just another narcissistic sofa. I can't.
Your boy. He's talking about your boy.
Yeah, he had the right message at the right time. He should have learned not to believe in personalities, but instead we should have moral code. Yep. Oh, yes, your boy. I think Taskmaster is going to beat Deathstroke now. I don't know. After that,
I love Taskmaster.
I love Taskmaster.
I had a page of him up in my Jerry Bingham. Remember that Marvel Team Up 103, and Spider-Man fought the Taskmaster, and there was that one page. It was a montage of them fighting. I owned that page for years.
I
was
always
up in my kitchen.
I love that the Taskmaster school where he trained the henchmen, they had guns that were called janglers. I'll never the guns shoot them with the janglers, and then they shot and bees came out because the Ant-Man and the Wasp were part of the Avengers at the time.
I think it's fascinating that the Taskmaster can copy every move a guy can make. He can't copy the powers, but he can copy the moves.
Right. I thought that was a fascinating. They ended up calling it photographic reflexes. I thought that was just
Something
such that. So he would watch Daredevil and Iron Fist and Captain America, and interesting if the verse was a Russian-dominated Winter Soldier versus the original Deathstroke. Yeah, that's pretty much what
That's pretty much what we're doing. That's pretty much staying the same through the New 52, though.
Right, so
that's what we're doing.
So let's get to this now. I don't think it's too difficult to come up with the scenario of why they're fighting.
You don't have to have any scenario.
Deathstroke got hired to go to Russia and to take out some high-ranking, commie bastard. And he takes out the commie bastard because let's give Deathstroke his props. He's efficient. And now they unleash the Winter Soldier.
He's a fascist. It's okay. You take out commies.
Yeah, that's why I let the commie die in my fictitious little world. And they unleash the Winter Soldier to take out the Taskmaster. So Taskmaster, for some reason, it's Russia. So it's cold. They're on top of a train. You know what I mean? There's ice and snow all over the place. And to me, this is just how the fight starts.
Somebody needs to draw that Winter Soldier standing there on top of a train with the Deathstroke Terminator. There's breath coming out of their mouths, and they're just standing there, badass.
And there's a lady with a T looking out the window. Ooh!
Deathstroke gets out after being with a pile of 12-year-old girls, maybe a couple of boys. Said thanks, Mr. Epstein, and goes out and fights the Winter Soldier.
There you go.
Yeah, Terminator is hired to take out Pat Bondi or something.
There you go.
Well, there's one thing about, Deathstroke is kind of like he's task oriented, but Winter Soldier is just a pure killer. He's got that side of him. That's just see target, eliminate target. And he's less like self-involved. He's less about protecting himself than Deathstroke is, and so if they go on against each other, then you got one guy who's focused to the exclusion of even his own health, versus somebody who's it's a pure survivor, and he wants his own health above all else, and so when that inherently causes somebody they have a disadvantage. You know.
I see the first thing that these are both firearm carrying people. I see like they face each other. The first thing that they're both going to do is just pull out guns and start shooting at each other. Like there's no need.
Yeah.
Like at this point, they're not going to go in and start punching each other. You know,
No, I guess
these guys
not.
are like modern. You know, so I see them like Uzis or whatever. So here's the question now: if these two face each other and pull out guns, who survives this? Like, to me, Deathstroke was quick enough to avoid Wonder Girl and Kid Flash. You know what I mean? Is Bucky quick enough to hit somebody that fast? That to me is the make or break this fight.
I think.
Well,
my feeling. And go ahead, Cooper. Sorry.
I think that that Bucky would probably take some shots, definitely.
Yeah.
But you know, at the same time, you know, the arm's going to deflect some of it. He's an expert at
That's right.
deflecting
I
stuff.
pictured too.
Apparently, in the new movie, and I didn't see it. He deflects a whole like VW Beetle with his arm. So
Yeah.
Does he have a?
The Thunderbolt movie coming out? Yeah.
Yeah, that was in the trailer for that. I saw that.
Yeah.
That's strong. But the movie guys are always stronger. Marvel movie guys are stronger than the Marvel Comics guys. I feel like Deathstroke is really powerful. He's way more powerful. If they got in a hand-to-hand, I don't know. Because the only thing that's super powerful about Bucky, you know, he has a lowercase super soldier serum, is his cybernetic arm. And is Deathstroke whole body as strong as that one cybernetic arm?
Well, no, he took out Cyborg. He literally cut Cyborg's arms and legs off. You know what I mean?
And that's right.
We're running into the inherent problem. We're running into the inherent problem. All DC characters are overpowered.
I was just going to say
until they're not.
Exactly right.
And which is the entire problem with DC Comics is that their characters are all overpowered until they're not. And they all have plot armor until they have to lose.
Well, I will say the Punisher kills Vigilante, you know, so there's a Marvel guy that just slaughters the DC version. If we ever do.
Oh, Punisher. That's true. Yeah.
Well, it's because he'd walk into the, you know, watchtower with a nuclear bomb.
But it's funny that the Marvel guys created Deathstroke. Like when they created Deathstroke, they were still like the first year of Teen Titans. They were still Marvel guys.
But they needed him to be a challenge to a bunch of powerhouses.
Yeah.
Like when we played my role playing game, we had a bunch of one of my friend's character died, and he made up a new character at first level. But the problem was everybody else on the team was like 9th level, and he got killed the first adventure because the bad guys had to challenge the 12th level bad guy, you know, the superheroes. Right. So it was kind of just like whenever a character died, we kind of made a whole new team where everybody rose to. He was just like, yeah, what was he going to do? Like, you know, he was the rookie on a team of you know,
right.
Yeah. So anyway, but that's to me, like I just see like they instantly draw on each other. They're not going to run to each other, start boxing like Apollo Creed and Rocky.
No, that's true.
They're going to start firing guns.
I think the battle would probably happen kind of like it did in Winter Soldier, where he was trying to hit. You know, that they started with guns, and then when they closed, they did hand to hand.
Right.
I think that's how it usually worked at Arrow too. They would start from far away with all their weapons, and eventually it was hand to hand.
Right.
So I
mean, I think, you know, assuming the military power, the military ability to fight is equal, we're assuming they're both equal. Don was saying how much great the Winter Soldier is, but I don't know how he really realized how much training that before it became Deathstroke through Korean War and Vietnam War.
Well, he was able to hold his own with the Red Room soldiers. So, you know, and Black Widow can pretty much take out anybody in the Marvel universe outside of Captain America. So, you know, it's pretty high level.
Right. It's definitely. I don't have any problem with Deathstroke. It's just that's the way it is, you know.
No.
So if we depower,
I was talking about Winter Soldier. So yeah, I was talking about Winter Soldier when I was talking.
Right. That's true.
Does
Black
Winter
Widow's
Soldier
not
have any, like,
DC, so
does he have any like tricks? Does he have like a magnetic blast in his arm or anything like that that I don't know about?
he does have a knife in his arm,
Yeah.
that a retractable blade. So
Is he going to have? Maybe if he had the Captain America shield, he'd probably defeat.
Oh,
Deathstroke.
Captain America Shield is a different
Yeah.
fight.
Yeah, but he's had it, at some point.
yeah, he was a really good Captain America.
He was a good Captain America.
He was a damn good Captain America.
Have you read any of Brubaker's criminal books? All those I took them all
Yeah,
out
those
of
are good.
I read all those books.
No,
He's a terrific writer. It's a shame he went woke, but he's a terrific writer.
Yeah.
Brubaker's awesome. He really is.
He had an Image comic called Sleeper, and it was
That's supposed to be good too.
Sleeper was so good. He was an agent that worked for the IO. If you remember, like they had like Shield called IO, and I forget the main guy, the leader, the Nick Fury of it, but it was like one of the glue that tied together all the Image comics, Wildstorm, and I can't remember that guy, but he was also the father of the Flame guy in Generation 13.
He did a story in Criminal where it was basically Archie,
Yeah, I was
except
gonna
for
bring
murder
that up.
mystery and everybody got killed. It was terrible,
such
but
a
it was
good
a great comic.
But Sleeper was so good. This guy was in an evil organization, and then the guy from IO was in a coma, and he was the only one who knew. So like he was trying to get out. He's like, my mission's over, but nobody. Oh, it was so good. I have nothing. It has nothing to do with what we're talking about. But
It does because Brubaker wrote and created the Soldier with
he
Steve Epstein.
wrote Fatale, which is like a Lovecraftian femme fatale story. So good, such a good writer.
Yeah.
And then what did he get, like $500 when the movie came out? Like he was really pissed, I remember Deathstroke at a military experiment, make him stronger.
Right, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Like he wasn't strong as say Wonder Girl or Cyborg, but he had super reflexes. He had super endurance. He
was strong enough.
But like, he had like all of his points maxed out among everything rather than super focused like say the Hulk.
But also he goes into that thing where Batman can beat anybody if he has enough prep time.
Right.
Well, Deathstroke was all about prep time.
Right.
He studied his prey, and he studied his prey until he knew all their weaknesses, no matter what. It's all about prep time. Now, let's say he had no prep, doesn't know the Winter Soldier.
That's why I said they both don't know. They like, I'll say Bucky or the Winter Soldier just knows that an assassin just killed a commie. And Deathstroke doesn't know that the Winter Soldier, like I would picture like he probably never heard of him because that's like the Winter Soldier's whole thing. He does his job, goes back on ice, literally. You know what I mean? So like Deathstroke is like,
he kills JFK, goes back on ice.
You know what I mean? So like I would picture that they don't know either of them because I don't think Bucky is more of a tactician than a strategist, whereas I think Deathstroke is more of a strategist.
Yeah.
I mean, he did that whole Judas contract. That was like a year-long story, things like that. So that's why I just pictured boom.
Well, hand to hand, Captain America had trouble staying with him when they fought because in the not in the movies but in the Marvel universe, Captain America is like a peak human, and
right.
So was Bucky. But when he's good enough hand to hand that he could like hold off, or he was able to hold his own with Captain America, who's like the ultimate fighter in the Marvel universe. And Captain America did get the better of him, but at the same time, it's kind of implied that he let him get the better of him so he could get the hold of the, so he could like achieve his aim. When you're talking about Bucky, you're talking about somebody who is kind of like, okay, doing a rope-a-dope. You might think that you're beating him, but you might be playing into his hands. So he's very cunning, and like you said, he's a tactician. So when he's fighting you, he's at the same time, evaluating you in real time. So I think if you fought this battle 10 out of 10 times, I think Bucky would probably win about 5 of them. So I think I think they're almost evenly matched. It would just depend on if you're just fighting in Russia and hence Bucky's home field advantage, and I think that he would probably edge him out, but it's very circumstantial here. To me, they're almost evenly matched to me.
RRTNZ from New Zealand says dropping in. If it's the MCU Winter Soldier, he wins. The comic book Slade wins. Very even.
I could see that. Yeah.
I mean, I got problems with the movies, so I kind of focus on the comics. And I mean, if we use the MCU version, then we have to use the CW version, and I don't think the CW version of Deathstroke would last very long.
But Civil War was their best, one of their best, if not the best movie they had.
Yeah,
but I want the Winter Soldier to win, even though Bucky technically is a bad guy at this point. It's not his fault. It literally is not his fault. He doesn't have agency. So I'm rooting for that guy. Whereas Deathstroke is a piece of crap, and I want him to lose, but I can't.
He is a piece of crap.
You know what I mean? Like
they tried to forget.
Maybe the modern version isn't the same guy. Maybe they retconned or whatever, or rebooted him.
How bad could that be? I mean, what were they thinking?
But I can't help but think Deathstroke wins. I think Bucky is a peak human in the fact that like he's as best as you're going to be without Super Soldier Serum, but he does have Super Soldier Serum. He has the Infinity Serum, so like Marcus said, he has lowercase Super Soldier Serum. So you know what? I don't know. Then I forgot. I keep forgetting that he does have a Super Soldier Serum. So. This is now it's getting hard. I was leaning towards Deathstroke. Now the pendulum's going back again. I don't know. This sounds like anticlimactic, but the last couple of weeks it's been like tough to call. We're getting really good challenges.
Well, I would say that Slade does have a healing factor, and while Bucky heals faster than human, he doesn't have a healing factor, and so. He would have to do sufficient enough damage to Deathstroke that he wasn't able to heal in time to win. But
it's funny because at work when I was one of my coworkers bought my comic, and he read it the next day. He's really into comics. He was asking me questions. It was funny because he was figuring out if the Patriarch's powers work like this, could this trick him and beat him? He was really astute about it. And he goes, but the only thing does he have a healing factor? No, he goes, well, he can't survive with that. Like, it's so ingrained that superheroes have to have a healing factor. I was like,
never had one before Wolverine. I don't even remember Hulk having a healing factor.
Right. Well, and like Marcus, you said a couple weeks ago, the original Wolverine could like heal his arm. Like if he broke his arm, it would take like a couple of days.
It would take a week or something. He'd be up for a while.
Like, do you remember when the brood were implanted and his healing factor destroyed the brood? But he was also up for like a couple of months. I love that. I thought that was so cool. But
they made the healing factors way too much, I think.
Right. And now like Deathstroke, I don't know this. I'm just speculating. I can imagine like a bullet just popping out of his neck and closing up because everybody's got a healing factor these days.
Yeah.
You assume like they call it a healing factor, but we knew that when Spider-Man got a cold, that he was going to, if he slept 8 hours, he was going to get better because he was superhuman. That was kind of the idea, but we didn't call it a healing factor.
Right.
Like
I remember Peter Parker or Spider-Man had a cast over his Spider-Man outfit. And for like 3 or 4 issues. And like he couldn't swing with that arm. So like he couldn't swing and throw a punch. And it really worked. And then I remember he went home and he was going on a date with Debbie Whitman, my favorite Spider-Man girlfriend. And he went home and I remember he said, what do I want to do? Do I want to eat? Do I want to shower? Do I want to sleep? And he went, sleep. And he went to, and when he woke up, he smashed the cast and he was fine.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
I never thought it was like, oh, wow, it's just like you said, he's a superhero.
He's a superhero. He had superpowers. Yeah.
Like a comic book character gets shot, they just shake and they're back to normal. Like a superhero just needs a legitimate.
I remember Batman, and this was before. Remember that great story that they did at Earth 2 Batman married Catwoman?
Yeah. And that's where the
George Freeman and then but when they were first getting together, he took off his shirt and his back was all scarred up and she's like, "Oh my God, what happened?" Well, I'm Batman. This is what happened.
What happened? A lifetime of being Batman happened.
Yeah, I'm ready to retire and settle down, you know. But they don't do that anymore. Everybody has a healing power.
Hulk had a massive healing factor during the period. Yeah, one of the things
but that's when healing. Yeah,
I did like when what's his name, Banner in the movie said he shot himself in the mouth and Hulk spit out the bullet. I'm like,
yeah.
At one point, it's ridiculous. It's the Hulk to begin with, but at one point, there's no drama or tension with the Hulk now.
That's what Al Ewing did for the Immortal Hulk, was that the Hulk actually did die, but he kept coming back to life, and he went back through the history, which made this a good story for a little while anyway. Was that he went through the whole history of Hulk from 1962 on and labeled he died here, he died here, he died here.
Really, that's
like
kind of
he originally died at the first gamma bomb. He died, but the gamma, it was ended up being a door to this weird dimension, which made no sense. But at the time, we didn't know that, so that's what made it. So at the end, we kind of knew everything. It wasn't as much fun. That he died, then he came back to life. The Hulk, being the Hulk, brought him back to life, and he died a few other times, like when he had the bullet lodged in his brain during like the Kirby thing. He died. He came back to life, and all the gamma people would come back to life. Sasquatch, Doc Samson, Betty Brant as the Harpy, and it was like a horror comic.
Wow, that sounds like interesting.
Until I
didn't read it though. In the Wolverine vs. Predator comic, that's reduced him to a skeleton and a brain, and he walked away 12. Yeah,
that's ridiculous. I thought Logic Fighters had to go.
I really liked when the Punisher. That story I always talk about with Punisher, Daredevil, and Wolverine walk into a bar, and Punisher is basically interrogating them all. Oh, what's your power? So he throws the pepper into Daredevil's face and then stabs Wolverine in the nuts because he knows he's not going to kill him. And Wolverine was incapacitated long enough for Punisher to get away. Not, you know what I mean? Like he laid on the bar ground, like, like in Modern Marvel, he would pull out the knife. But I thought it was such a clever story. Like he knew that was going to take out Logan for a couple of hours or whatever. The Lazarus Pit, I love the concept of the Lazarus Pit, but
can't be overused.
Yes, like there has to be like the way I would do a Lazarus Pit is like it would have to be like ley lines cross, and then when you use the Lazarus Pit, you used up all that stored energy, and now that Lazarus Pit is like useless for 100 years, and now Ra's al Ghul has to travel the world for the right conditions for another. Otherwise, it's just like, okay, let's throw.
Well, it's supposed to turn you into a murdering psychopath,
right? Let's, and I do like that. Crazy for a little while. They have to calm down. That's kind of cool, but I don't know. It like everything else. Like
it doesn't solve everything, but and then it's meant to be a deus ex machina at some point to these writers who can't think their ways out of anything. It starts off pretty cool.
Oh wow! Oscar says this: the first Banner Richie Corbin run, he painted that. Cool. And Tonic Ball loves the cover that you did for him, Oscar, and he's like bragging. And he's like, I got a guy from Marvel Comics working with me. Yeah, that's
Well,
I have a few minutes, so I'm watching. Okay. Doc Samson needs his own stories, pure superhero psychiatrist.
He actually has a comic run. He did have a comic run.
Yeah, he had a few short stories. One of them was written by Dan Slott. A villain attacks.
I love his costume.
Mother, and then punches him. I love the ridiculous costume. Oh my god!
No, I loved his first costume with the bolt. Oh, I love that with the T-shirt. That was a great costume.
Ridiculous. And then the green hair. I freaking love that. You use that. Like to me, and again, I always talk about my role-playing games. If you die, and for whatever reason, there's a Lazarus Pit or whatever, or like we're doing the fantasy and a cleric brings you have no more experience points. So like if you die at 10th level, you come back at 10th level, but 0 experience points. And then it's going to take you to get all the experience points back. So I would say like in Marvel Comics, if you go to Lazarus, you lost your soul.
I think you're a tough DM. I don't know if I could.
Oh, I'm a dick. But
you're like,
but everybody's like, but everybody playing with me kind of like, yeah, it makes consequences. You know what I mean? You don't want to. But if I was to write DC Comics and Barbara Gordon went to the Lazarus, she would have no soul because her soul is gone, and now she's that would be like a quest to like reestablish your soul, redevelop your soul, and. To my way of thinking, your soul is what.
Well, Lazarus Pit take people to the madness. They are crazy for a while, and some of them don't come back. So
And one of the things, again, I'm working in the mythology of my comic is your soul is like your force field that protects you from spirits and demons. So so like Barbara Gordon goes into the Lazarus pit, she comes out, she's a little bit crazy, she calms down, but she's susceptible to demonic possession and mind control and stuff because like a little baby. That's why Satan in all the movies always goes for a little girl or a little kid, because they don't have the soul generated enough to protect them. This is pure speculation and mythology on my part that I'm making up.
Well, the power in my world is based on something called Soltrons, so I'm with you on that.
Soltrons. So that's like a 70s disco show. Everybody dances. No,
No.
that's Soul Train. That's Soul Train. That's Soul Train. So anyway, we got it. So I think the fact that we're straying so far kind of
it's always a tie.
Yeah, I got again. Wow, we got 70 people watching. Guys in the chat, who do you think wins?
Yeah, we got to get the chat in here because we're stuck. We get stuck.
Or Bucky. I want Bucky to win because Deathstroke to me is a good villain. Like I don't believe that George Perez and Marv Wolfman are pedophiles or anything like that. I think you're allowed to make a detestable bit. Like I don't think Jack Kirby eats planets or secretly wants to rule an Eastern European nation. He made a bad guy.
Well, let's just say this. Let's just say this. If we equalize the power levels and we lower him to the same level as Bucky is, if we take away that DC overpower thing and just put them on equal levels where, one's not so overpowered, then Bucky would definitely win that contest. But if you go into the DC of if it's DC overpowered, then he wouldn't stand a chance. But if you were to say that they're on equal basis, power level wise, then I think Bucky with his arm and with his like underhanded kind of like cunning, I think he would have a chance of winning on that one.
So Cooper's going for Bucky. Marcus, who do you think?
Well, if Ducky can get a detachable hand on that in his arm and just shoot his hand,
like Baron Karza.
Yeah, like Baron Karza.
Yeah. So we got 2 for Bucky. I still say.
Well, our TNZ goes Winter Soldier because he has depth perception. He instantly is a better shot. But it's been established that Deathstroke has so much power over his own brain that it doesn't matter that he lost his mind. He has just as good as
90% of his brain, which he said
he's a DC character, which means he's just below a god.
So I'm gonna say Bucky. If everything's equal, Bucky.
In just like every time Wolverine shows up, he has to say, "I'm the best at what I do," and what I do.
Well, that's one of the best things anybody ever wrote for a character.
And then every time Deathstroke showed up, he had to say, "I use 90% of my brain." Everybody else will.
I thought he said, "I like 12-year-olds."
Yeah, but I'm rooting for Bucky, but I can't say let's depower one because then that defeats the whole.
Well, you have to if you're going to put a Marvel up against a DC. You have to. DC is so freaking overpowered. Everybody is like super speed. Everybody's super powered, super everything.
And that's why you get ridiculous. That's why you get series like The Flash where nobody else can be in it except the people.
And I do agree that toning down the DC powers is a smart move. And that's why the only power. When he ever asks, like, could Spider-Man beat the Patriarch? I'm like, oh yeah, and he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I didn't want to make a super powerful character, like, that's not fun,
Yeah.
And then every threat's got to up the last threat and stuff like that. It's not fun. Like the Patriarch had a tough time with a little goofball that makes robot insects,
Well, Colonel Ironsides has kind of like been on the sideline for 50 years, so he gets his ass kicked in this first couple of books. So, I mean, I like my characters able to take damage.
Right? Yeah. But Mary Sue's going to get her ass kicked in her first appearance. You know what I mean? It's just the way it is. It's just I think it's fun to have an origin, and I hate when a superhero just from the get-go understands all the aspects of their powers. Like
Well,
that's kind of why I like the original X-Men.
I
Like
love The Greatest American Hero. That was my show. I love
well,
that
that's the
show.
same. Now you're coming into what made Spider-Man so good. He didn't know what he was doing at the beginning, and he used to
No.
have all. Why do we have thought bubbles? Now you have thought balloons, so that you know what he's saying. Well, I'm really being a wiseacre, but I'm just nervous, Peter Parker. What the heck am I doing here? And that's like the whole Ditko run till the end. Not quite like the last few issues. Like Ditko was growing him up, but at the beginning, that's why everybody loves him. Peter Parker still screws it all up.
at the end of Ditko's run, he was like, "I hate my friends."
Yeah, well, the
Parker
Ditko
was like, "All my
was
friends are a bunch of."
reading Ayn Rand at that point.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
Peter Parker was very unsympathetic at the end.
For the truth is, for Spider-Man to become as popular as he did, Ditko really kind of had to leave, in a weird way.
I just you read like the issue with the Prowler, and there's student protests, and Peter Parker's like, "These ungrateful kids, what are they?"
Yeah, and he smashes the table. He's all angry, and then as soon as John Romita comes up, he meets Mary Jane Watson.
Yeah, and then calms down. That would work for me. Hot redhead. Hot
That would work for me.
With disputing Cooper's view, Marvel was just
yeah. Now they have power creep, but now back when we were talking about mid '80s, when these guys were there, they didn't really have the power creep.
No. Storm can be Iceman can be planet, Silver Surfer is nearly that's a pretty recent artifact. What's that?
Power creep in Marvel. When the writing went downhill. Power people that can't keep power levels consistent, it's a good sign of bad writing. And they got shit writing. They got
Kyle,
the worst
I'm
writing.
Almost ready to send you files to make a trailer, just so you know. But what is the link that you're throwing in? If you send me on Twitter, I can put it in here so it's an actual link. So
or I can do it too.
But just let us know what it is. I trust you. I trust Kyle. Marvel vs. DC is heroes versus gods. Yeah, pretty good. Did someone say Ditko? Oh, that's the word that summons Kyle Prometheus. Okay, or Ayn Rand.
Both.
Hello, John. Guest. Okay, Kyle. So Kyle made that jazzy opening that I use, and I absolutely love that. And I thank you, Kyle. He just sent it to me. So I'm actually going to hire him for issue 2. And Renzo just sent me page 5 as we were talking. That's why I was looking down. There's one correction.
John doesn't pay though, so
What's that?
John pays right away, but might not be that much though. That's a joke. You get nobody better to work for than John. Just Kyle.
Ask Oscar. So
he's great. You're great. I work for you a little. It's great.
Yeah, I'm as soon as I get one more page colored, I'm gonna send it to you. So and then Luke Stone is already he's building the campaign page for Fund My Comic.
Oh, I'm glad he can still do that. He said he got a job.
Yeah, he got a job. He's doing my pre-press. He's doing a bunch of stuff for me. Like I said, you can't get service like that on Indiegogo.
No, you can't. No, you can't.
I don't know. I'm done with Indiegogo. Sorry, Luke, but I probably will go on Kickstarter again. I can't say no to the sales I got on that. I'm still small potato. Well, but anyway, that has nothing to do with. So I say Deathstroke. Oscar in the chat says Deathstroke. A lot of people say Bucky. I'm rooting for Bucky. I like Bucky better.
Yeah.
But I'm just going by what I've seen in the comics, and just like Oscar's clarified, I'm talking Judas contract error Deathstroke versus Winter Soldier, Ed Brubaker era Winter Soldier. I'm sure that there's difference now, and I'm sure there's differences in the cartoons and there's differences in the CW. So I'm just clarifying which version I'm using. But again, I'm not.
You're probably right. I'm
and I'm not the authority, Luke. Luke, I'm calling you Luke. Cooper. I'm not the
power. I mean, but it's like I said, the DC power levels are just everybody's super powered, everybody's super speed,
right.
Everybody's super strong,
right.
Everybody's
if Deathstroke, if Marv Wolfman and George Perez had created Deathstroke for Marvel, he would be giving Daredevil a tough time, and we would be like, yeah, Bucky, the Winter Soldier, would cream him. So yes, the fact that he has to fight Titans like the Teen Titans, like Wonder Girl, who is Wonder Woman, Cyborg, Kid Flash, who is the Flash, Robin, who is Batman, all at the same time. He has to be more powerful.
I wonder if they did that. I wonder if when they created him, they said, okay, we're going to do this. And then they would talk, George and him would talk, hey, we got to make him more powerful. He's got to take on this guy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we got to up him a little more and up him a little
Absolutely.
more if he's going to be the main bat. I mean, this is a team that takes on Trigon.
I will give you a caveat, though. Bucky Cap would kick Deathstroke's ass.
With the shield
Bucky
and
with
everything.
the shield
is
and
a game.
the arm and the gun. He carried a gun with him and everything.
Yeah.
So.
People don't, well, I'm sure people do. Us comic book people realize how powerful that shield is. You know, it's basically a magic item. Like I loved in the movies when Spider-Man sees the shield for the first time, he goes, "That doesn't obey the laws of physics." I thought that was
Yeah. No.
Well, they tried to make it a Wakandan thing in the movies, and it's not. That's what kind of annoying. And they try to make it all vibranium. It's not. It's vibranium and adamantium.
Yeah.
And the key to the shield is that it absorbs the power of the blows as well as defense him, which is why he could take a punch from the Hulk, at least one, without being turned into like a mess, because that it has the power. But at the beginning, you know, Captain America lost his shield in the Avengers, and then all of a sudden they got it back a couple pages later, and there was no explanation.
Well, it took a blow from Thor's hammer in the first Avengers, remember?
Right. One of my favorite, because one of the things that John, I don't know if it was John Byrne, but I forget who it was, but they said that Captain America's shield, like if you hit it, it dispersed all the energy.
Right.
Around, so like it evenly dispersed it. Or that's why it worked as a perfectly round shield and blah, 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 blah. So when Hulk hit him, all that kinetic energy was just dispersed like evenly in 360 degrees. That's why his arm didn't break. So then John Byrne had this clever idea where Captain America jumped out of an airplane and he took the shield and strapped his feet with it just and landed on the ground and walked away because the shield absorbed.
Yeah, Kirby did all that stuff with the shield.
I thought that was so clever. So yeah, if you give Bucky that shield, it's this as long, you know, he's deflected what's his face, and then like that shield is like it's gonna shred bullets, it's gonna shred his armor, you know. RRNTZ says something. Superman, yes, the Silver Surfer. I think there's two Marvel characters that could almost beat any DC characters. That would be Black Bolt and the Silver Surfer. They are overpowered, you know, but it works with those characters, you know.
Yeah, but
now the Sentry.
Do they still use the Sentry? I don't even know.
I think they kind of ruined the Sentry. Like the Sentry, he's too powerful for Marvel. Like, you know, like you thought Thor showing up in the Avengers and solving all the problems.
He's a DC character. Yeah.
I don't know. I liked a couple of his limited series. He's
Sentry was a DC hero in the Marvel, which is why he had to be like, yeah. What are they doing with the Sentry nowadays?
I think he's going to be in the Thunderbolts movie, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he's the bad guy. I think he's the
Void was his bad guy. I remember that.
Yeah, I thought the Sentry was real clever. I like the whole concept of the hoax that, you know, a lot of people got mad about that. But once you read
how they worked him into the whole history without destroying the history.
But that also, you don't know if that's real or not. Is that the Sentry's powers making people think that?
That's true.
You know, that's what I really like. There's no definitive answer. You know, I thought that was pretty clever. I like to think that the first issue of the Sentry really was the first appearance, and the Sentry's powers made everybody think that they were friends or whatever.
Right.
You know,
Hulk's buddy.
But, yeah, Golden Man, make Hulk feel good. You know, because to have him as the best man at the wedding is, to me, is just as bad as Kamala Khan being in Dark Phoenix.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, it didn't, like I would like to see Reed Richards be like, when Sentry's not around or when Sentry gets defeated, he's like, he wasn't our best man. This is him manipulating us. Like a Reed coming up with a counter to Sentry's mental manipulations. And like when Brian Bendis said that he had the powers of the Molecule Man, I'm like, nah, because Molecule Man controls molecules. He doesn't control minds, and there's a difference, like so the Molecule Man can't give you false memories and stuff like that, whereas the Sentry can. So he has more than just the Molecule Man. Like I would say that like the Sentry has the power cosmic, like the Silver Surfer.
The power of a billion suns or something.
Right, the Silver Surfer can make himself stronger.
I never remember very much about the sun.
The Silver Surfer could basically do whatever the Silver Surfer wants.
That's why he was a whiny character.
Oh man, what a whiny character! Oh, why?
Yeah, I know. Graham Nolan, he did a whole thing on how it was so against like Kirby's original Silver Surfer that Stan had him in like a mall. In that great first issue, looked so good. They were
now they're making him a chick, so that takes care of that emotional problem.
That's true. Yeah, it was pretty funny.
So, I guess the battle has run its course. We got two for Bucky, two for and one that's on the panel.
That's fair.
Oscar's got my back. Kyle Prometheus says Deathstroke. So there you go. So what about next?
We have to make it. We have to stop being like, well, this is a tie because this. We have to make a decision of who is going to win.
Well, I don't mind. Pick your guy, and I pick that.
I know. I just don't want to. I don't want to have ties anymore. I want to make a decision.
Yeah,
be a man.
But like when we were in the comic book store, we didn't walk out going, "That was a consensus." No, we walked out going, "Marcus was wrong because he said Spider-Man."
Leave the seat up. Be a man.
Yeah. So what about next week? What do you think is a good anybody openly? Kyle, anybody for next week?
So
got another for Deathstroke.
What are we gonna have? Does anybody have any ideas?
I don't like. I keep having a Darkseid versus Thanos like locked and loaded, ready to go if we can't come up with anybody. And I still want to do like Jonah Hex first, like Jonah Hex first, like Nick Fury or something like that, like World War II Nick Fury, not Shield Nick Fury.
I want to address this where he says 1996. I consider that modern comics. We're talking 60s, 70s, and 80s. Of course, the power creep was in the 90s. Who was writing the comics in the 90s? That's when the power creep started. Absolutely.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, the power creep. Yeah,
absolutely. But I'm old, so
Kraven versus Cheetah. Oh,
that's interesting. We've done Kraven before. I haven't done Cheetah. Cheetah's like Wonder Woman's only villain.
I love the cheesy Cheetah in basically the pajamas, with the cute little ears.
Kraven is pretty much human, though, isn't he?
Didn't they sleep together?
Oh.
They would have to do it through the company-wide crossovers, right? Kraven and Cheetah.
Well, yeah, the Hulk could smash. No, well, the Hulk in World War Hulk, yes, he was able to do that. But after World War Hulk was not able to do that.
Do what? Sleep with Cheetah?
Well, he could sleep with Cheetah. Cheetah would be a little uncomfortable for her, wouldn't you think?
In the 2007, the Hulk could smash entire planet. Superman hasn't been able to do it.
How about Rorschach versus the Question?
Rorschach versus the Max.
But that was that Planet Hulk to World War Hulk was a specific thing where the Hulk got overpowered because of the situation, and after they defeated him, I forgot. Then he went back to regular super strong Hulk. You can't say the Hulk moves planets now. Well, I guess maybe they could. I don't know. I don't read them. But right after that, I don't remember the Hulk being any stronger than or less strong than he was before. But he was supercharged during World War Hulk, which was kind of annoying, actually.
The Kraven, if my recollection, he has like a version of the Wakanda heart-shaped herb. Either he stole it or he found it elsewhere, or he made it art. But I remember he's everybody's got super soldier serum in Marvel now, because the super soldier serum isn't like a derivative of the Wakandan plant, which I love when they cross all the T's and make everything work together like that. Wonder Woman versus She-Hulk.
Did we do that?
No, I don't think we did that one.
Wonder Woman versus Storm. Slightly different power sets.
what Wonder Woman is like. I love Wonder Woman,
okay.
but she's like they just give her a new power on the spot, like even to this day.
They were just talking. Somebody was talking about Wonder Woman, how Wonder Woman, like, because of certain, never was able to really be that popular, and they're always trying to do something to make her popular. And other than the movie with Gal Gadot was the only time. And it basically was an editor had said that nobody wants to sleep with Wonder Woman so that she doesn't get that popular. The other cat, Power Girl, yes. Supergirl, probably. Wonder Woman, nobody wants. They think she's a super feminist. She was on the first issue. She was on the cover of Ms. Magazine in 1972.
Is it because she's like unattainable, or is it because it just
because she did lesbian overtones and the fact she's a feminist? No, and it's just like, yeah, and it's just she's kind of unattainable all at once. And so she never got
that's
really
an
popular.
interesting one.
That is kind of interesting. Yeah.
They tried with
Tarzan versus
Diodato
the
and make her
Phantom.
super sexy, and it didn't work.
We'll
No,
get Tonic
bottom.
Ball in here. Who would you rather sleep with, Power Girl or Wonder Woman? We'll see what Tonic Ball has to say.
I mean, even if they draw Wonder Woman and get a whole run of Brian Boland, Adam Hughes covers, it never helped. I mean, I like the character just fine, but she doesn't equal Batman and Superman in popularity. We know who she is.
I'm reaching out for the chat because I don't know who
Tarzan versus the Phantom.
That's a good one. That's the one I like.
That's not a bad one. We just did Tarzan a few weeks ago, though.
Yeah, we
did Tarzan a couple weeks ago. Yeah. I think he lost too.
Tarzan versus Craven.
Tarzan versus Kazar.
Tarzan versus or
the guy with the orange cat wins. So there's that. That's
Yeah. Cheetah versus the cat. No, it's not gonna work.
How about Black Cat versus Cheetah, or Pam Grier Tigra versus Cheetah?
Pam Grier Tigra?
Well, what's her name? Grier, whatever her first name was.
Grier, yeah.
Gwen
Pam Grier would make her Tigra.
Eva Williams versus Shang-Chi. There's a deep cut.
Yeah. No, Linda, no, but it didn't stick. It didn't sell any comic books.
It didn't sell comics, yeah.
The only media, outside media, that sold comics is Batman '89. Nothing ever sold comics before or since.
The Shadow versus Batman is one I wanted to do, but we did Batman. But I'm willing to do the Shadow versus Batman. What do you guys think?
Okay, I like the Shadow versus Batman. But we should cap the Batman. We should think about capping the year of Batman. Is it not? Maybe not the Bat God.
Yeah.
Like the current Batman.
Yeah. What do you guys think? Batman versus Shadow?
I could do that. That's cool.
Really like
that works.
Yeah. Okay. We'll do that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Anything anybody want to talk about? Any business? So,
Fun My Comic is about to hit their 2-year anniversary.
Nice. I'm getting my campaign built. Like Vaughn Coleman was asking me if there was a problem because we kind of launched around the same time, and
well, you have to defeat the evil that is Vaughn Coleman this time.
Yeah, well, I don't like that. I mean, yeah, I want to do better. I want to defeat the evil of issue number 1, but like I don't want anybody to do bad, so I can.
No, I'm kidding.
But yes, it would be good bragging rights to be like.
I'm teasing, obviously.
And and of course we have different price points because I am going to go to $10. I can't raise the price to $15.
I was thinking you're probably right.
I just would. I don't feel right. I don't feel right.
Well, he's lowering his comics number 2 is only $10.
Yeah, but it's also a lesser page count.
How many pages are you going to do this time?
Me, I want to stick around 40. I want to stick around 40.
Oh, you're going to keep the same page count. Okay.
I want to keep maybe.
So you're like, it's like a floppy plus, and he's doing a floppy.
Right. So, what else would I say? If issue 2 does well, I'm going to go and do, instead of Patriarch will spin off into his own comic, and issue 1 of the Patriarch will be his origin, because Heroic Tales number 3 was going to be the Patriarch's origin. So I have more room to expand his origin. Issue 3 of Heroic Tales then will be the Raven, and then it'll probably be the time travel story.
Cool.
Either that, depending upon if people really like the Mary Sue story, I might do the follow-up story to Mary Sue.
Well, I already feel bad for Mary Sue after that last panel. I feel very upset and worried about her.
Yeah.
So, you know.
She's going to have a rough time. Michael Moorcock versus Alan Moore. There you go. Yeah.
I don't know. That's good. That's a good one.
I'm going to be biased on that one.
Michael Moorcock versus Fritz Lieber. Yeah. There's a comic
Fritz Lieber versus Howard.
The Burroughs versus Howard.
Burroughs versus Howard.
That would be a good one. Yeah, next week we'll do the Shadow versus Batman, just because it would be fun to talk about the Shadow.
Especially since Batman, so much of Batman came from the Shadow.
Yeah. Even the villains, even some of Batman's villains came from Shadow villains. But that's it. I'm getting real sleepy because I'm back to work.
How's that going? Everything okay? I know you had a tragedy at work.
You want to
hear? Worry about it.
The week that I was off, a guy fell down, and then when he fell down, they don't know if he fell down because he had a heart attack or if he had a heart attack that caused him to fall down. But the EMT showed up without a defibrillator, had to go back, get the defibrillator, come back, and by the time the guy was dead. So that's
a lawsuit.
Yeah. Then not my foreman, but for another, there's always a couple of electrical contractors on the job. Another foreman was backing up to look at something, didn't notice that there was a hole in the grating and fell and shattered his spine.
Oh.
So that was Friday. Then I come back to work. The day I come back to work, a guy 3 months away from retirement he's going to go home. He's not feeling good. He sits down waiting for the bus, dies sitting waiting. There's a bus that takes you to the parking lot where your cars are. So he died on the job just waiting for the bus. And then guess what? Guy died yesterday.
Oh.
Another three heart attacks in 2 weeks.
Oh, OSHA must be all over you though.
So yeah, and another guy cut his hand. It's just a mess.
Did they were they forced to get the vax to work?
Every construction worker in New York was forced to get the vax.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's the first thing I thought. Nobody ever asked me, so I never got it. My foreman. I don't know if they just. I don't know what my foreman said. I don't want to ask. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, don't bother.
But I never got it. So, like one of my buddies, he was just like, I gotta get it. I gotta get it. I can't. His wife just had a baby, gets the vax 2 weeks later, he's dead. Mitochondria,
Yeah.
And then my cousin told me that's just a coincidence. So I was like, F you, don't talk to me ever again. It's just a coincidence. But anyway, that's what's going on in my job. So anyway, I'm sleepy. I'm back to work.
Okay, yeah.
So weak. I was lifting pipes yesterday and handing them to another guy. We were stocking them in another area. Oh my God, I was dying after being out of work for so long.
Yeah, it's hard. It gets hard.
I used to like no problem. Now I'm like, oh my God, I'm dying. All right, but I got to go to sleep.
All right, good night. Good night.
Good night. Studio tomorrow.
Another fun show, a banger of a show, as we'll say.
Yeah.
Tomorrow you got the studio at 7:00 Eastern Standard.
Tomorrow we're drawing Type 1, Sean Arnott's Type 1.
We're doing cryptids and conspiracies tomorrow night. Was Chuck Barris? Did Chuck Barris have an actual, dangerous mind?
Oh, that's a good one. I love the Gong Show.
7:00. Sorry,
that's
That's okay. I don't set the time. Saturday's a crazy time. Not everybody can be there. I ask people to come on. They're like, "It's Saturday. I'm not coming on." Are you nuts?
Yeah.
Don't you have a life?
Tomorrow, me and my friend are playing a superhero role playing game. His character got he went 500 years in the future through space relativity travel, had a whole bunch of adventures in the future, and then got sucked into a black hole and sent them back into 1962. And now he's been living 1962. He's getting closer. So now he's in the 70s, and I've been so. Long story short, they did all the witchcraft stuff because in the 70s all the witchcraft stories were big. Hitchhikers, he picked up the wrong hitchhiker who was a succubus. It's just funny. I'm doing all the 70s tropes. So it was like a Dirty Harry bad cop in New York City story that was just so much fun. So we're catching up.
Sounds like a hoot.
Can't wait till we get to the 80s when it's going to be all disco. All right, but see ya.
All right. Good night.
Later, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.